Trumpeter that actually founded the Purchase Latin Jazz Orchestra, and the idea of educating in Latin jazz is something that has been a part of several conservatories, the Manhattan School of Music, the New School. Different people have done it. I think, of course I have to say it, I think Purchase is doing it the best because they've, of course, hired me. And I don't mean to sound obnoxious and egotistical, but I take a lot of pride and care, not that the other professors don't, or the other people in the other institutions don't. That's really not my intent to say. My intent to say is that we really think that Purchase is on the vanguard of a lot of innovative and cutting-edge ideas in music, and I think that the Latin Jazz Orchestra reflects that. We don't play just Latin jazz. Like I said, we play music from Peru, from Colombia, from Argentina. It's not your typical Latin jazz, not your typical definition of Latin jazz. So in that sense, I think Purchase is ahead of the curve, and I'm very proud to be associated with the Purchase faculty. Musician is to enlarge the scope of perception of what jazz is. And jazz is much bigger than what is presented by the institutions in our nation. Jazz is bigger than the 40s or the 50s or Duke Ellington, and all those things are incredibly important. Without Duke Ellington, there's really no jazz. But jazz has grown beyond the borders of America and New Orleans, and it's time to take into account the fact that we have a big, huge mission, and that is to define the music of jazz. As an educator, my goals are very simple: to get my students to not learn from replicating, to get my students to not learn from regurgitating or playing endless scales or trying to sound like this or that one. In every single musician, those are important tools. But in every single young musician, there's a spirit waiting to be ignited of complete creativity, and that is really what moves. That's really what propels our craft forward. And so my goal as a mission as an educator is to unlock the real creativity and not the replicational skill of a student. Idea that the heart, the mind, and the body are separate, like that's a real classical ideal, that we live in separate vessels, and that's very true. But I think that when you listen to Latin music, you engage your intellect, you move your feet, and you feel passion. So for a brief moment, all these worlds come together in a way that really completes a moment that's very special for us. So music that you can move to, that causes you to think, and that makes you feel something, to me is the complete experience. And Latin does that about as well as any music I've ever experienced. Latin jazz does that. Music is an amazing tool for stepping outside of yourself. Students, young people, children especially, tend to be wrapped up in their ever-changing and growing bodies. They are constantly experiencing this new, that new, and it's really easy to get blocked into body image and body consciousness and body awareness. And music is it's not physical. It's an oral sound, it's an audio sound, it's a thing that exists outside of our physical brain. So sometimes young people can be set free from the tyranny of being physical beings by listening to music and experiencing art and watching things and being a part of something that isn't necessarily visual. But I think, and especially rhythmic, rhythm is an incredible part of what allows us to be free. That's why rhythm is such an incredible part of music from all over the world. And I think young children need to sometimes step outside of the fact that they're growing up and that their bodies are changing, and they need to really just groove and just listen and allow that kind of temporal plane rule their minds for a little while. Music does that.
Identify what we think of when we think of jazz. So what I want you to do is, I want you to put on your imaginary sunglasses on the count of 3. Are you ready? Are you ready? Okay, here we go. 1, 2, 3. That's it. Now I want you to snap your fingers with me. That's it. Can you look cool? Ah, you're looking good.
I wouldn't say I dedicated my life to Latin jazz. I think I've dedicated my life to music. Latin jazz is just a maligned subset of a category that shouldn't be neither a subset nor a category. It's really part and parcel of everything that we call jazz. To relegate it to 3 concerts a season or to 1 record in the bin is not really paying justice or really paying attention to the real issues of jazz. As a musician, again, I mean, I've dedicated my life to the goal that the music that we call jazz is bigger than anyone imagined, and to really give it its due, we need to enlarge our understanding of it. There's some artists that I love. I love Jimi Hendrix. I love Albert Ayler. I love Prince. I love Eddie Palmieri. I love those people are artists that I think really lay it all on the line when they perform. They really go into their performance with a complete abandonment that I think is really incredible and rare and special. Many of us are too wrapped up in our careers or in our lives or in our moments or in our need to be the center of attention to really abandon all touch with reality and during a performance. And I think those are performances that really give everything. When you do that, I think you really capture that very same eternal spirit that I was talking about, that temporal, that plane which doesn't really exist physically.